Okay. I think I've got it on. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Connie. And
bear with us. So I'm at least extremely nervous. So bear with us.
Haley's going to be great. We're just getting up over here. It's 6 a.m. on the East Coast where two of us are, and 5 a.m. where one of us is. And so we are getting ourselves together, but we're so glad that you're here. And so we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk live for about 30 minutes. And then we've got a wonderful video that Sin has prepared about Discord. So welcome to Managing Creative Flow. And we're going to start by talking about how creativity is something you're bringing into the world. And I know there's a lot of creatives here in the group. We're all here celebrating creativity. And sometimes we may be wondering how to manage that flow when we get an idea what to do with it. It's a process, and getting it from the spark of the idea to a finished creation can be challenging. Sometimes it's easy and it just flows, and sometimes it's difficult. And we want to talk a little bit about how we can do this more effectively. So we're going to walk through some of the main ways that we can use practices and tools in our creative flow to produce work that we feel good about. So briefly, we're going to cover your why. Why do we create? Cultivating our inspiration, ideation and capturing ideas, planning out our work, getting unstuck, how to receive and give positive critical feedback. We'll do some Q&A, and we're hoping there'll be some questions thrown into the Q&A tab. So please remember, use the Q&A tab rather than the chat to manage that. And then we'll talk about Discord, and we'll have a wonderful video about that. So first, why do we manage creative flow? Isn't managing creative flow an oxymoron? Shouldn't creativity be just allowed to flow? And why manage it? There can be negative connotations to managing flow. Are we damming it up, stopping it somehow, forcing it? There's also positive connotations, though: directing our flow, focusing it, refining it. When we learn to work with our unique creative flow and combine it with processes and systems that support that flow, we're able to express ourselves more fully, more effectively, and possibly be able to produce more of what we love. So we get ideas. What happens with an idea? You get a seed of an idea. It comes to us somehow. We plant it and we nurture it till it's grown. Or we may get frustrated with it. We might yell at it. We might threaten to shred it. If it's not working out, what do we do? Do we give up on it altogether? Is that a bad thing? All questions to ask ourselves. It's not necessarily a bad thing if we get an idea that just doesn't seem to be working out, but there's alternatives to killing it. Perhaps that idea is not really best for us right at this moment. It could also be that it's better served giving that idea to someone else. I have this great idea. I have an idea for a story or a comic or a fic, and I don't have the time, but I really, or I don't know what to do with it. So I give it to someone else who I think can manage that better. We had that situation recently. My friend Sarah had a wonderful idea for a little comic, a mini comic, and she didn't have time to do it because she was working on a lot of projects. And she said, "Would anybody want to take this on?" I said, "Oh, I will." And it was just a little 4-panel thing, but I had a lot of fun with it. I used her dialogue and her setup, and then made it into something that was just fun and joyful. So that was an example of that. Um, the other thing is that maybe we have an idea that we're not quite ready to bring into the world, and it's better maybe if we put it aside. Maybe it's for a few weeks, a few months, sometimes even a few years. We might put aside an idea and then discover it in a journal decades later and say, maybe it's time to do something with that. We plant it into soil that has been specially prepared for it by our life experience, our techniques that we've learned over time, and the technology that maybe is better able to express it. So we also get ideas that suddenly grow, and they're wonderful and exciting, and they grow like bamboo. It's awesome, and it's also overwhelming. It's so big we don't know how to organize our thoughts and actions. We want to see it to completion, but there's so many steps and aspects to this idea, and it becomes terrifying. What if we could nurture our ideas, these seeds, into something that grows wonderfully? On whatever timetable we choose to work with it, we can choose to keep it to ourselves, share it with people we trust, or put it out into the world and see what happens. Most importantly, we want to develop ideas so that they make us happy. Let's talk a little bit about why we create. Why write? Why make art? Why create anything? It's important to keep our whys as our touchstone as we create. It's good to periodically ask ourselves, what is my reason for creating? We might have several reasons, and those reasons can change over time. Also, who am I creating for? And am I creating for fun, for the joy of it, for the pleasure of it, for income? Maybe a combination of all of those things, and they're all valid. So having our why as the center of why we're creating and putting it out there helps us to be able to move forward with our flow. Okay, so Haley, why do you create?
I write because I want stories to exist, because there's a story that I want to tell. Sometimes the characters just absolutely demand that I tell their stories, and I don't have a lot to say over it. I also write as a form of stress release and a way of managing my own anxiety. When I write, when I immerse myself in a story, I can escape from the difficulties of my everyday actual life and live in a fantasy world for a while. And that's very, very cathartic. But more than any of that, I write to make myself and my readers happy. Knowing that I've brought someone joy or given them some type of emotional reaction is a really, really gratifying thing for me.
Great. My why is that I can't not make art. It gives me joy. And like Haley was saying, it's telling stories. I can bring myself also into a little world that I've created. And I love bringing the sense of awe to other people and giving them a laugh. Most of my work is kind of humorous and lighthearted and fluffy, I guess. I do a lot of fluffy art. And that just makes me happy. And I just enjoy seeing other people made happy by it. So let's just remember to keep our why in mind as we create, and that could spur us forward. Um, and let it percolate in the back of our minds. Let's talk a little bit about cultivating our inspiration and our creative flow. What are our influences? How do we get ideas? Um, One thing I try to do is center myself and get quiet. That might be a meditation practice. It might just be closing my eyes for a few minutes, writing and journaling. Uh, Other influences can come to us from anywhere. Getting an idea in the shower. A lot of times I wake up with an idea in my head and I have to write it down right away. A conversation or a random thought might spark an idea. Um, I think, Haley, you had a wonderful fic come from a very
I
random place.
I was bored one afternoon and scrolling my phone and saw a meme. And the meme was something about these two guys were talking and they were hungover. And one of them said, "Hey, do you remember we promised last night when we were 40 we were going to open a TGI Fridays together?" And the second guy said, "No, I don't remember that, but I'm in." And from that meme came the idea for one of my stories, um,
Mhm.
that these two people would make a pact. So, I mean, inspiration can come from anywhere at any time.
And The Pact is a wonderful story. I'm a huge fan of it. So when I found out that it was related to a TGI Fridays, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Haley made that much better. So um, I recently I actually have an animatic that's premiering today, that came from a song that I found. I was on SoundCloud one day and just happened to click on this song. And when I listened to the lyrics, just like we saw with the vids last night, how the lyrics just fit the story so well. I had that moment of inspiration as well. And I thought, I've got to do something with this, and visualized it and then animated it. So, ideas can come from anywhere, and it's important to stay open to those influences. So, planning out our work. What are some habits and processes that we can do to support our creative output? Um, well, I, one of the biggest questions is, where do you work? What do we do? How do we find the space for it? Not everybody has a cabin in the woods that they can retreat to as their writing place. So how do we manage that?
It's ideal to have a
Haley, do you
workspace.
have,
It it's best if you can have a dedicated workspace, but most people can't. Most people don't have a home offices or a desk that they can dedicate to writing. But anywhere that you can sit down and be alone with your thoughts, or anywhere that you can feel creative, will work. I write at my kitchen table. All of my stories have been written at my kitchen table.
that is wonderful. Until my kids moved out, I had basically would sit in my bedroom and write or draw. Now I'm fortunate that I have my son's old bedroom, and I've got a desk, and I also managed to telework from the same place. So for me, 9 to 5, I'm teleworking at my desk with my work computer. 5 o'clock comes along, I turn that off, and I get on my personal computer and start to draw. You know, and so I spend a lot of time in my gaming chair. So the other question is when, and that can be difficult. We had a couple of questions about how do you find the time to do this. And I thought about this a little bit more last night. Uh, the when can be really challenging for people. And I can't prescribe for anybody because each of us has a different circumstance. I think what it comes down to is that the most critical part of it is your mindset. If it's important to you to create, find the time. Even if you've got 3 jobs going, I used to have a 2-hour commute every day, an hour each way. And, you know, I'd be tired at the end of the day, and I didn't have a whole lot of time. So I had to fit my creative time, my drawing time in early in the morning, or stay up a little bit later than I probably should have in order to do that. I've been able to become much more prolific because of telecommuting. I have to say, it's helped me a lot. I've used that circumstance to my advantage. Um, but even if you only have 15 minutes a day, it's important that you commit to creating. And that's the mindset part of it. It's like, well, I could spend my time, scrolling randomly, I'm looking at the news or whatever. But what really matters is that you say, I'm going to commit this time every day. And even if you have a big project and you don't have a lot of time for it, every day that you spend on that, you're getting a little bit closer to your goal and it will get done. It just simply takes longer. Um, so look at carefully about how you structure your time. What are your obligations? What are your routines? What's your energy level? I found that different times a day I'd feel more inclined to create because of my energy level. And consider your priorities. Is there anything that you're currently doing that you could stop doing so that you make time to create? The one thing I've learned is not to skimp on sleep. That's something I really had a problem with. I would stay up till 1 or 2 a.m. Every night and then be up at 6. And functioning on 4 hours of sleep is not good for anybody. And I believed in toughing it out and realized that the most important body part involved in creating is your brain, and your brain has to be well rested. So we're going to pivot a little bit and talk about managing the flow. And we're going to talk a little bit about planning our work and brainstorming. And I'm going to let Haley take on this part a little bit, and we'll take it from there.
Um, as far as planning, I have a broad strokes idea for a story before I write. I have the main details, the broad plot, but I try not to actually plot or plan more than a chapter or two ahead because it gives me the freedom to let them lead me where they want to go. Um, and they are not shy about telling me what they won't do and what they will do. Um, I make a loose outline for the whole story with I want this to happen here and this to happen here and then the ending to be this. But I leave myself and the guys lots of wiggle room. And often my outline is just mental. It's just in my head. As I write chapters, the ideas for the next couple of chapters come to me and I plot them. Then I write them. And that goes on and on until I have a whole story.
For me, I usually get a generalized vision of what my final set of images is going to be. That works really well for very short things, so single panel comic or a short multi-panel comic. Um, I've collaborated with some authors over various projects this past year, and generally what I'll do is I'll wait to get their chapters. It might be a draft format. It's usually not completed, but I'll start to look over what they've written, and I'll look and say, what do you want me to illustrate? Is there something that you've got in your mind that you'd like to see a picture of as you're writing this? They can give me their ideas on that. Then I'll go through the text that they've given me and I'll say, oh, okay, this looks really interesting. I've got an image in my head for what the characters are going to do. And I'll propose that and we'll discuss it. And then I'll usually send them a draft drawing, partly done, black and white, and say, are you good with these poses? Are you good with this image? And I'll get their feedback. And then from there, I'll go on to making the finished product. Um, when it's just my own work, I kind of do that with myself. I'll be like, what am I trying to do here? And look at the poses. Sometimes I'll let it sit for a couple of days and come back to it. And it's just a matter of iteration, I guess, just seeing how is this going to progress. How about brainstorming?
I recommend that writers or creators have a couple of friends, a couple of trusted friends to brainstorm with. They're not a beta, even though they can do that too, but they're just more of a sounding board. For me, I'll have a spark of an idea, just a little seed, like Connie talked about, and then I'll take it to my brainstorming partners, most notably Anne. And I'll present her with the idea and say, "What do you think? Does this work?" And we'll bounce it around a bit. And when I feel like I have a solid enough plot, I'll move ahead and plot the first couple of chapters in detail. And she's not my only brainstorming friend. I tend to outsource a lot. but but yeah, I think brainstorming partners are, they're at least a huge part of how I create.
Okay. Um, and then your writing process, when you're actually sitting down to write.
The first thing I do is that I write linearly. The first chapter is the first thing I write, and my epilogue is the last thing I write. And I write it that way because my brain insists on it. It works for me. Um, I feel like it gives the characters the opportunity to make their own decisions about what I'm doing as I write. They don't always, like I mentioned, they don't always want to do what I have planned for them. They're a couple of butt heads sometimes, and they fight me and insist on doing their own thing. For example, in every multi-chap I've written, I have had a plan for when they were going to say "I love you," and they said it on their own when they were ready, or they didn't say it when they weren't ready, um, because they're buttheads. But my brain is not equipped to let me write in a patchwork fashion. Um, a lot of people do. Most people I know, Sin does, and she'll have scenes plotted chapters in advance, but I just can't do that. I wish I could. Um, my method works for me. I also write longhand. I've tried it both ways. I have tried to write on the computer, and I can, but I feel like my writing is richer and better detailed when I write longhand because my hand slows my brain down enough to let me add more detail. Um, it also gives me the perfect chance to edit as I type. The first draft that I send to the beta is usually actually a second draft, and it's much better for it. My writing process is very cyclical, and I do it every day. I write 7 days a week, never skipping a day. I even write on holidays, even if it's just a couple of paragraphs. It's a really rare day that I don't write at all. And when I don't write at all, it tends to affect my mood because it's an anxiety release for me. It's a release valve, and if I don't write, I feel bad. Um, my actual process. I sit down in the afternoon after school when the kids are playing video games with my pen and paper and my clipboard, and I write. I usually get between 1,500 and 3,000 words a day written, between a half a chapter and a full chapter. While I'm writing, I'll often have ideas for the next chapter brewing. Sometimes I'll jot those ideas down as I go to have later. I've got a notepad sitting beside where I write so I can jot down ideas for upcoming chapters. I'll usually crap out around 5:30 or 6 and have to get up to make dinner. And I'll leave the words I've written alone and try not to think about them. While I'm cooking dinner or dealing with the kids, I'll brainstorm the next chapter. After dinner, I sit down and plot the next chapter in detail with my brainstorming partners. The next morning, while the kids are doing virtual school, because, we're all doing virtual school, while the kids are at the kitchen table doing virtual school, I'll type up the chapter from the day before and edit as I go. And then we'll talk about the upcoming chapter, and I'll write out a synopsis. They'll tell me what they like and what they don't like. And when the kids finish school, I sit back down with my notepad and my clipboard, and I write the next chapter.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left on our speaking part before we start the Discord video. So I just want to have a couple of minutes for Q&A, but Haley, can you quickly talk a little bit about giving and getting positive feedback?
Um, I am not the best person to talk to about giving positive feedback because I tend to read a story and just, oh my God, I love it, and I keyboard smash. But I cannot recommend replying to every comment highly enough, even if it's just a keyboard smash, even if it's just an emoji. I have a very high level of engagement with readers. They talk to me, and I think a large part of it is because I talk back and they ask me thoughtful questions and I ask them questions. and it's very symbiotic. But I please reply to comments, even if you think it's not worth your time, even if it's just an emoji, even if you don't know what to say. The least you can say is thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that, Haley. I'm going to take a couple of questions. We've got about 5 or 6 questions that came in, and we won't have time to cover them all, but I'm going to invite people to come join us in the Scribbling Better Writers and Artists chat. It's a breakout room that you can find from the list of breakout rooms, and I'll post something a little bit later, probably this afternoon for US folks, and it'll be evening for UK folks, where we can talk a little bit more, because I think it'd be fun to have a discussion about it. So very quickly, this is a question for Haley, and it's from Sarah. Has this fandom changed your creative output and methods to what you were doing previously? And if so, how?
Um, my methods have not changed much, except that I write exclusively longhand now. Where before I was in the Doctor Who fandom before I came here, and before I would write on my computer most of the time. Now I write almost exclusively longhand. Um, it's also my first time writing slash, which is much more different than I would have thought it would be. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have said, "Oh no, it's not that different," but it really is. But the main difference is that I write longhand.
We have a couple of questions. These are also for Haley. Um, Alana AO3, Lana Fox says, I'm always so impressed with Haley's publishing schedule. Monday and Thursday, or Wednesday and Saturday. Do you write most of your fic ahead of publishing the first chapter?
I do.
And does a story ever require you to go back and revise publishing after?
I never start publishing a story until I have about 6 weeks worth in the can. So 5 or 6 weeks, so 10 to 12 chapters. Um, and I do that so in case I run into a massive writer's block or something, I still have a buffer to work with. Um, I have never really had to go back and edit anything major after I've published it, mainly because I have 6 weeks worth of story written. Um, for Win a Date that I'm working on now, I actually have the chapter that I wrote yesterday will not be published until mid-January. So I have a lot of time to go back and retool and rehash things before I publish. Thank you for asking me that.
So when I'm reacting to something that I've just read, you're like, "Oh, I wrote that weeks and weeks ago." uh, okay, I've got one question that I'll respond to from Nikki at Sentient Bentley. What if you're not a linear writer? What if you get ideas for scenes that are all out of order, and then do you want to change stuff? So I tend to be that way because I think visually, and for the animatic that I did, I actually started out with post-it notes and took my post-it notes, did a little drawing of the scene that I wanted, and then started moving them around. I'd stick them to my sketch pad, literally, and move things around. And I think you can do that with the writing process as well. I'm starting to write a comic, and I don't think linearly. So again, I will probably do it digitally, but then I can move my images around. I think it's just a matter of, putting it out there, seeing what makes sense. Feel free to change things, and then when you feel good about it, then you move forward with it. So it's 6:30 now, and I know our wonderful demonic hosts, co-hosts, said that they would be able to set up the video. We're going to talk, Sin is going to talk a bit about how to use Discord, which is free. And I know lots of people are on Discord, how she's been able to take that tool and use it as a way to organize her process. And she is about the most organized person I know. So I would take what she has to say very seriously. So I guess if we can turn the video on, we'll be good. And again, watch for an invite to a talk later on today. We'll just chat informally about creativity. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sin. Thank you, Haley. And here we go.
Thank you.
Hello. I hope you're having a great time at IneffableCon 2. I know I am. I'm Sin. You might know me as Sin on AO3 or Patreon. Everywhere else, pretty much, I am a Madness to Method. And I would like to talk to you about my portion of today's panel on workflow management. Now, I've come up with a few things that I like to do that help me sort and manage my time. Now, what this means is that with a lot of projects, you want to have a way to make sure everything, all your information is together. You want to know what you need to be doing, when you need to have it done, how much you need to have done at certain key checkpoints, and overall, what your day is going to look like. Okay? Now, there are a few different ways to do this, and nothing is going to work for every single person. You might have something that you like to do that's different, and that's okay. That's great, as long as it works for you. I'm just going to show you a few of the ways that work for me. Now, what I have done is I have taken to Discord and I have created my own empty server. You see, this is my actual server, but it's got personal information that I don't think you need to see. Anyway, I have created pretty much a dummy server to show you how it's set up. So there's no information on here that you don't need to see, no confidential or things that haven't been published yet. Okay, so as you see, there is no one else in the server but me. So if you have a fear of Discord, you need not be afraid. Even if you don't get into any other servers, what you do here is it's all you. You just set this up however you want. But I'm going to show you how I've set up some things. Now, here we have signups. Okay, now these are just some things I kind of made up to show you. I happen to really enjoy working in zines and working in collaborative projects like bang events and things like that. Now, what I like to do, excuse me, is I like to make a record. I've set up in my planning here, signups. I record the name of the zine or the event. If there's a website or social media, I'll put the link in there. Put in when I signed up and when to expect the results. So you see here we've got this one and then this. So this is my record of what I've signed up for and when I should expect to see something. Now, we can go a little further and look over here where I have timelines. Now, when you're signing up for something, if there's not a timeline available immediately, don't freak out. That's okay. Sometimes they have them ready, sometimes they don't. You might not know the full timeline until you get accepted. And that's totally all right. But once you have that timeline, what you want to do is you come in and you set up, like, okay, here I put, again, these are all just, I made these up. Okay, put the name of the zine or the project and your timeline. See, this is the application results, when the first check-in is, check-ins, when the work's due, pre-sales. This gives you a quick glance to see what you've got going on with that. All right, and as you look, you have all of this information, okay? So you don't have to go searching for it. Now, this may seem like a lot of information to do at the start, but what you're doing is you're actually saving yourself some time, because you don't have to keep asking or keep searching, okay? Now, every so often you want to check the server. If you're in a zine or a project, you want to check to make sure that these dates haven't changed, because that can happen. And if they change, you just come in and you hit edit and you fix it. Say the check-in is changed to November 27th, and you just, there you go, and it's updated. Okay, now, all right, so what we do here with the spreadsheet is, this is for organizing the projects along with the due dates, the check-in dates, and what you're doing. Like, for example, with some of these, I actually have more than one project planned in the main project, as in, like, I have multiple art pieces, or for example, another one, I'm doing art pieces, but I'm also doing the design for it. So those are actually going to be different different dates and different things that I need to have done. So the point of having the spreadsheet is so that I can have the date, all the dates put together. I can glance quickly and see what I still need to do. But when I want more detail, I go back over into the server. Okay, now as far as things like with collaborations, okay, like for if you're taking commissions or things like that. Okay, what I have here, and I'm using as an example, I did a collaboration with 7 Lira and Tarek Giver Cookies in a mini bang, and what we did was 7 Lira wrote the fic, and Tarek and I did art for it. So I had my information here of what chapter I was doing and what scene I was doing. Okay, now I have over here, and this is actually a nice thing that I started doing also, not just for projects, but for reading, because I was tired of having so many tabs open. So what I did was I just started taking everything that was in my tabs, and I would stick it with a little in here as a bookmark with a little bit of information, and then as I go through and read, I can edit and mark as read and leave it so I still have the bookmark, or I can delete it if I want to, just whatever I need to do. But getting back to the projects, what we're doing here is I have put, this was the collaboration because it was a work in progress, and my part was in chapter 5. So I had that here, and I have keywords here. Okay, and this is what's really great about using a Discord server. Okay, is the keyword search, because Discord's search feature will search not only what you have written, but also in the link itself. So say I type the word lost, because I'm working on lost and found. Well, that brings me several different things every time that comes up, and I can just jump straight on to, say I want to jump to this one. Oh, there we go. Or if I want to look up information for the timeline on a scene, and say I want to look up the Arthur Young zine, so I'll just type well, I'm going to type everything else right. Okay, Arthur Young. And look, it's right there. I can just jump straight to it. Now, the thing to keep in mind is this also works in other servers. So if you're in a project, you can search like this in that server as well. But the important thing here is that when you're looking for a keyword, you want to look for a unique keyword, okay? It needs to be something that you'll remember and that makes you think of, that you think of when you think of the project. Because if you go into a large Good Omen server and you type Aziraphale, you're going to get 6,000 results. So you want something that's unique, but not so unique that you don't remember it. And you just pepper those keywords in whenever you're typing something in. And if you forget to put something in there, you can just go back and edit and then add that information in. There you go. Now, again, I've mentioned this before. It seems like you're spending a lot of time setting this up, but in the long run, you're actually saving yourself time, because once you put this information in there, that's all you need. You can find it pretty quickly. You don't have to go trying to just wade through and scroll and scroll and scroll. You can just use the search feature, keywords, and jump straight to whatever you want. Okay, so now there are also other benefits here. One of the things I like to do while I'm doing my art pieces is that I will throw little screen grabs as I'm working, because I don't necessarily have time while I'm working on the art to, say, post to social media or set up a work in progress thing for like a work in progress Wednesday in a lot of social media groups. So I'll throw my progress shots in as I go, and then I can come back to them later and copy them and paste them into whatever I need to do. And this also works as far as with the keywords. Like, for example, I discovered while I was setting this up that apparently I put Aziraphale under stained glass quite a bit. So I put stained glass. And I see I've got, well, there he is with no hair. Or here. And I had started this as a tutorial on eyes. So this is very helpful for me to have all of this information where I can just pull it up so that I can set up my post, which also gets me to, here we go. Because when I'm working on the computer, it is just so much easier to put my images and type out things here on the keyboard than it is to try to type everything out on the phone. So I put it here. I can save it on my phone through the Discord app, and then I can copy and paste that into creating my my Instagram post. Like here, this is so much easier to type on the computer than it was to try to type it on keyboard on my phone. Okay, and I have my little snippets for an image that I did for one of my fics, and this is the art that I did for 7 Liras Lost and Found. And I did that, I put that information there, I did that picture so that I could save it on my phone. I typed up my hashtags and my information, and then I took them over to well, yeah, this is a different post, but my Instagram basically, and I uploaded it with all my hashtags that I copied that I didn't have to type out. Well, I had to type out on the computer, but I didn't have to try to type them out on the phone. So that was really helpful there. And another thing that really helps is using this as a bookmark, as a repository for references and information. When you're writing, it's the same as with art as it is with writing. There are going to be things, if you're doing your research, that you might want to come back to and reference. And it's very, very easy to just put those links in here and with your little keywords, so that you have them and you can just easily reference back to them, and you don't have to worry about trying to remember where did you find that, sorting through all the bookmarks in your folders, all that, because it's right here with your little notes. Okay, it's just so much easier, and you can edit it, and it shows you the preview like this. It shows John hand pictures and poses. Another thing that is really helpful, I found, is that Discord gives us the opportunity, or the option, excuse me, to sort things into folders. Now, what I like to do is, I do have a junk drawer here. I have so many different servers that, these are servers that I have muted that I still maintain access to because there is information that I might need, but they're so busy and active that I just don't want the notifications going off constantly. So I'm not getting the notifications by muting them, but the information is still there. I can still go in at any time and see what's going on. Now I have my different ones like writers groups, collaboration teams, which I really like doing that. I like having small servers for collaborations on Discord because we can collect all of our information together and work towards the goal instead of just having everything all separate, trying to chase people down on different forms of messenger, emails, and everything. It's great to have it all together, and that way everyone has access to it. And my project groups, my personal servers, and all that kind of stuff. So that's helpful for me, and that might be helpful for you too. And so basically, I think, did we cover it? Yep. So basically, that's what I do. And again, if this doesn't work for you specifically, hopefully you will have found something in there that you can adapt to fit your own personal needs, because you are the one that knows best what you're capable of doing. And if you have everything together, all your information, you can have a good idea about what you're going to need to do, as far as if you're trying to sign up for new things or trying to determine what you have time to do based on what you've got going on currently. Because you can look, you can see, this is what my month is going to look like. So you think, if there's something that come up and they don't have a timeline, again, like I said before, that's not a big deal. You can look to see when the applications are due. Say if the applications are due and this answer, if they let you know when you're going to be able to either be accepted or rejected, which it does happen. You can look around that date to see what's happening past there, to see, do you have time to do this new project? And if you do, go for it. And if you don't, well, just be reasonable with yourself and understand that it's all right to say no to certain things. You can say, I do not have time to do this. And that's totally valid. You are the one that mediates your own experience. And I hope very much that these tools have been able to give you a way to do that. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions or anything, just hit me up on social media. Like I said, I'm a Madness to Method at pretty much everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. I'm happy to talk to you about anything you need. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ineffable Con. Thank you to the rest of the panel. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.